Welcome to Cybersecurity Diaries, Episode 1, Building Empowering Habits. I wanted, to discuss some of the lessons that I've learned from the books and the life itself and my career so far in cybersecurity, and hopefully dispel some of the myths and some of the ideas you might have, and then, whether you are starting out in cybersecurity, whether you are professional, whether you are advanced, hopefully some of the tips and some of the lessons that I've learned so far can help you propel your career to the next stage. So we'll discuss the journey that I've had in cybersecurity, but also we'll discuss how some of the thinking can prevent you from being successful, how some of the how we can enhance some of our habits and some of our behaviors to make sure that we are successful, and essentially just have some of the tips that hopefully will help you in your career. So I'll discuss some of the things from my own experience, some of the things that I've read in various books, and hopefully you'll guys find it useful and helpful in your own career as well. I'll talk about some of my career, some of my past, but hopefully we'll relay that and tie it up all into cybersecurity, and hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. So first of all, I'll give you a bit of a backstory. So I've moved to the UK coming up to now 17 years. So I grew up in a little country called Lithuania where everyone is mad about basketball. So, myself as any one of teenagers in Lithuania wished and dreamed of playing basketball professionally, or even potentially representing their country someday at a quite high level. So I played basketball professionally for a number of years, but I guess UK is probably the only one country in the world where you can't really make a career playing professional basketball. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that partly due to my environment, but partly due to what I was doing, I never became a professional basketball player. So it's really important to understand that wishing something to happen does not necessarily mean it will happen. You have to put in the work and you have to build behaviors of who you want to be. So if you model yourself of being a professional basketball player, you have to build the behaviors that a professional basketball player would do. So the same goes down to, if you wish to be a cybersecurity professional, if you wish to be a cybersecurity leader, you have to day in and day out, you have to model your behaviors to be successful and to be that cybersecurity leader that you want to be. So the same goes into me, for myself. I probably didn't put enough effort and work that needed to be a professional basketball player, but since I finished playing basketball, I switched and I needed to put that energy somewhere else. So I started going into the gym, and it's just a showcase of a picture that's been taken yesterday in the gym. So, loads of people normally, what happens is that once you start a particular journey, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's your health and in the gym, what people tend to do is they tend to show up once, twice, they don't see a results, and they give up. But the problem we have is normally some of these things, like especially as gym, as you probably guys might know, is you won't normally see results within a day, within sometimes weeks and months. But the effort and the importance of showing up day after day, that's what builds the results over time. Is you showing up, whether it's raining, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether you want to go out, whether you want to go out with your friends and things like that. The showing up is what builds the discipline and the importance of how you're going to transform, whether it's your career, whether it's your health, whether it's your mental even health. Because that's what I find. I think even though we sometimes, as us professionals, whether it's in cybersecurity, whether it's to do anything within technology, we tend to be um, you know, quite geeky, I think the importance of health for me, as well as couple that with mental health, going into the gym has been very important. It's been very important to have a place where I can push out all the negative energy, as well as fight with my inner demons and keep progressing. So showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it, can and will make all the difference. Showing up is the important beginning of you having a successful career in cybersecurity. So it's very important to model and build habits of keep showing up. So if you want to be a cybersecurity professional, you have to think in your head, what kind of behaviors and what kind of habits do I have to build in order to become a cybersecurity professional? And cybersecurity is one of those areas where it's constant personal development is the goal, and it's the technology landscape, it's changing ever so rapidly. So for us to be able to show up day in and day out, it's very important. I sometimes even say to juniors that I mentor, sometimes you know to me, the perseverance and the discipline sometimes is even more important than what you actually have done, because you are building the behaviors, you're building and showcasing the trust in you of what kind of person you can become. So for example, people are posting things like hack the box, try hack me, how they done a specific room, they completed a specific box that they hacked. But actually, I think Try Hack Me showcases that, where you can get a streak of days that you've been hacking. So showing up even when you don't feel like it, even when it's a weekend, spending 10-15 minutes on your skill, on your personal development, can really transform how you will feel about yourself, and how does that discipline can roll. It becomes sort of a snowball effect where it's you just build the specific habits to be successful and to keep showing up, and they will yield amazing benefits moving forward. Now let's jump into another very important two skills. And I always say that I think, especially at that sort of junior spectrum of your career, the attitude and aptitude is the one that can transform person into success, um, between hearing potentially yes or no during an interview. I always say, and this graph kind of very perfectly showcases that, when you start your career into cybersecurity, I guess whether you're doing a specific course, whether you're doing a boot camp, whether you are in university doing undergraduate degree in cybersecurity, or any similar sort of field, whether you're looking to get into graduate schemes, or any particular way that you're looking to essentially enter the field. For me personally, two of the most important skills that any junior person can have is the right attitude and the right aptitude. And what I mean by that is that, you know, as you can see, technical skills is on the bottom. The thing is, anyone can be taught technical skills, how to use specific tool, how to use specific platform. But to have the correct attitude and aptitude, which is essentially a willingness to learn, it's the most important skills to have. Because as I say, I can hire someone and teach them all the technical skills. But if somebody comes with the right technical skills, but they don't have the right attitude or aptitude, it's never it's never a hire. So these two skills are the most important. So have the correct attitude to work, to people around you, have a respect for people around you, and having correct aptitude and willingness to learn. It's very transformative. So normally, and how you normally model and understand that. Like any interview, for me, it's very important to understand. So I will normally ask a question such as like, what's your personal development plan for next 6, 12 or even more months? So, I want to gauge what are you working on, how are you personally developing, and where do you potentially see where you have gaps in your knowledge, but you are essentially actually addressing by building a plan in your personal development, and your attitude towards learning, towards work, towards culture. That can showcase a lot. And as you can see, for example, ideal junior hire is the essentially a merge of those two skills together. So having the right attitude and the right aptitude, and then the senior hire, you can add the technical skills in there with the correct attitude and aptitude, and that's the ideal senior hire. So these sort of where these essentially circles meet is the most important level of requirement that you might need for someone. I normally discuss this in LinkedIn very often, and there's loads of problems because obviously we keep hearing that there is a shortage of talent in cybersecurity, but I think most of it is broken because it's broken in a couple of ways. Organizations build unrealistic job descriptions. They require a plethora of skills that may not be necessary. They require unrealistic number of years of experience, and normally I think organizations fail in that because they require unrealistic expectations and they pay unrealistic low salary. So sometimes they portray the job role as junior where they require sort of a senior level of skills, and obviously the pay is junior level, and they keep struggling to hire those people. They put, even like a couple of days ago, actually, I mentioned that an organization was hiring for a security engineer, and they requested 15 years of experience. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is never ever a need for someone to have 15 years hands-on experience to be successful in the role. To me, even I guess it would be a real struggle even to find someone who has 15 years worth of experience because, I think anyone who's worked in cybersecurity engineering, anywhere between 2 to 5 years of experience, you move on into whether it's management, whether it's directorship, or even further up. So finding someone who's been an engineer for 15 years is highly impossible, and then expecting that, I'm pretty sure that any job description you put under security engineer, there's never a need for 15 years of experience, because I'm sure any person who has anywhere between 2 to 5 years can do the exact same job. So let's move into the next slide. I think it's important to note as well that you are always in charge of your own destiny. And what do I mean by that? I think, we keep hearing, whether it's, security leaders, whether it's, people looking for jobs, there's always a resentment, there's always a struggle, and people always, complain about whether it's lack of jobs, whether it's, the way companies behave, the way, they're being treated and things like that, the way they, keep hearing no. But I think we came to live now in a culture where, we hear constant moaning and constant complaining. But I think the very important point here to understand is that you are in charge of your own destiny. And what I mean by that is more importantly that you may not necessarily be in charge of how people say no to you, but you are definitely in charge of how you react. And that can be the difference between your success and failure. Because if you hear no, and you always put yourself down when you hear no, you essentially modeling a failure or a behavior towards failure. Whereas, I always say to people, when I mentor, when I try and help them move somewhere, up in their career ladder. No is part of the process. You might hear hundreds of no's, but how you react to that no and what you do afterwards, it's essentially, it'll showcase, it'll show whether you are going to work towards the success or towards failure. Because you can hear hundreds of no's, but you only need one yes, and we need to keep working for that one yes. So yes, no is part of the process, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You have to be able to dust yourself off and keep going again. So it's okay to hear no, but how you react to it is the most important way. So as you can see from this triangle as well, it's important, to build the right attitudes, to have the self-motivation, self-confidence. I guess, it's kind of here comes into play where, the imposter syndrome normally sets in as well. So sometimes, it's a lot of work, and a lot of sort of behaviors stem from imposter syndrome. When people starting out, especially in cybersecurity, whether they do in boot camps where you are overloaded with a large number of information sort of very fast, and it feels like you could never learn all of this. It's understanding that it's okay to not know something. It's okay to be where you are, and you just keep building those skills necessary to be successful. But it's all about understanding of where you are, what you have so far achieved, and in being happy with the progress. It's having the integrity, the honesty, and optimism in keep showing up, in keep building those habits of where you want to be, and essentially understanding that you are in charge of your own destiny. It's the way you react to things that will showcase how you progress forward. Yes, you might not be, as I said, you might not be in charge of what people tell you, but how you react to that's essentially will showcase how you're going to behave. Another very important part, and I think I always tell people, when you starting out in sort of building your specific plan, building your, how you're gonna learn, how you're gonna progress, and how you're gonna build a career. And I did it myself. I had to transform my planning because, and I think this is very important. Unless you've seen this four quadrants before, it can be sort of daunting from day to day, because normally the problem is a lot of people and a lot of us spend a lot of time in quadrant 3 and 4, and essentially that does not help us to progress and address our strategic goals. So it's very important to understand how to build specific tasks, how to plan your work, and how to plan your life. So normally what I've done as well before is, I think people who tend to plan their work sort of day to day, normally they struggle, because if you go from day to day planning, you normally spend more time in urgent but not important tasks that need to be delegated, or not urgent and not important tasks that should be eliminated. So I always say to people, find the day in a week. So normally, for example, it can be like, for myself, it's Friday. So Friday, I'll dedicate between half an hour and an hour to plan my next week. So then what I can do is, essentially, is the most important is I can plan my quadrant 2 tasks, which essentially the tasks that are not urgent, but they are important. They're important to whether, to my strategic security program, to my strategic personal security development goals. So I can plan when I can do my personal development, when I can write my security program for the business, when I can build specific domains in my program and write specific, documents to make sure that, I am delivering to that strategic objective, something that is not urgent, but is very important. And then again, then you go into urgent and important, which stuff that happens day to day. But it's a key to understanding that, you know, we are a creatures, I think, of notifications, and we are normally driven by that. So I think it's key to understanding when you plan your week ahead. It's important to understand and plan. So, say for example, I plan when I'm going to reply to specific emails, when I'm going to make specific calls, when I'm going to do specific work. So when you get notifications for emails, it's important to not jump away from the work that you're doing and try and answer those specific emails, because you get distracted from those strategic tasks and initiatives that essentially, you know, if you read any of specific scientific material, that it says, you know, when you get distracted from specific tasks, it takes anywhere from, you know, 20 minutes to 20 to half an hour, you know, to get back into the groove of writing your, you know, strategic, not urgent, important tasks. So make sure that, you know, whether it's calls, whether it's notifications, on, you know, whether it's Slack, emails, you know, you have to plan when and how you're going to respond to these, instead of being disturbed by stuff that's, you know, potentially can be urgent but not important, and slipping into that quadrant number 3. So yeah, understand how to plan your work, how to plan your, you know, schedule ahead, where you can put in your training, your, you know, your work and things like that. It can be very transformative in sort of combining those things, like, you know, showing up, planning work, understanding, you know, how you are in charge of your own success, and then essentially moving forward with your career. So this is very important to understand, you know, how these quadrants help or distract you from achieving your goals. So this is all about behaviors as well as habits. So this is a very great quote by the James Clear, who written a book called Atomic Habits. So success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformation sort of events or transformations. So again, it goes back to the same couple of things that I discussed. So the importance of showing up, the, you know, you are in charge of your own destiny. But I guess the most important thing is that it's, you know, when you want to become someone, you can't keep searching for things like big transformations that it's going to happen overnight and you're going to become this great cybersecurity professional, you know, because you discover the specific, you know, knowledge or skill. It's the showing up, is the habits that you build, that, and, you know, the habits that you model to be a successful cybersecurity professional. So I guess it's very important to understand, and I guess there's some great lessons that I took from James Clear book. So if you want to learn about, you know, how to model behaviors and habits, and how you can transform the negative habits into positive habits, how you can get rid of some of the bad habits in your life, that can help you hopefully in your career as well as in your personal life. So grab a copy of Atomic Habits book. You know, and I always try to nowadays to kind of switch and model how I do my personal development. So, you know, yes, I do some specific courses, I do some specific certificates, but another really important part that I added in my personal development is reading books, and reading a lot of books. So I try to normally switch between, so I normally read one, you know, one technical book, and then I read one personal development book. So, you know, whether it's, you know, habits, whether it's about leadership, whether it's about negotiation, you know, people keep forgetting that, you know, cybersecurity at the end of the day is we still work with people. So understanding how people behave and how their, you know, behaviors are modeled, how we can influence their behaviors, it can be really important whether you want to get, support in your cybersecurity program or your cybersecurity initiative, how we can negotiate and essentially get the support from people, how to help other people and build influence. That's really important skills, and I always say to people, especially when you end up in a new organization, offer people help, offer them support. If you got specific skills that might, where you see whether it's IT, whether it's HR, finance, if you see the specific departments, struggling, you need to obviously first of all try and spend time and understand, what struggles are they facing and how you can essentially help and support, because this way you can build the backing and support for cybersecurity. When you help people in need, normally people will remember and support you when you need, their support. So, I keep hearing that, especially some of the CISO, some of cybersecurity leaders, they keep, complaining how other people don't understand cybersecurity, how they, always lacking support, how, they're lacking budgets. But, I always like to spin that. You can't keep complaining that everyone's wrong around you. Maybe you need to better tailor your communication so people will understand. Maybe, you need to understand where the business is at, whether they're struggling with bottom line, what's the current market, doing and how the business is doing. And then secondly, you need to make sure that you build lasting relationships and collaboration between the senior executives, because, I will quote a few things as well, especially one of the ones like it's a great feedback that Keith Price mentioned in his talk with Joe Head, is one of the key metrics that he uses in his cybersecurity programs and himself as cybersecurity leader is whether he is invited by other senior executives, to their social events, or whether it's for specific, dinner, just to go out or just to have a coffee. Because if you are viewed as an ally and you are invited, that means you're doing something right. That means the security, will be supported. So some of these skills are very important, because at the end of the day, as I say, wherever you work in cybersecurity, you're still going to be working with people. So we can't any longer hide behind, technology jargon and say, oh, people don't understand cybersecurity because it's all about technology. That's not right. And we have to do better as cybersecurity professionals to make sure that people understand where we're coming from and why we're doing specific initiatives, but also, we have to model our skills and behaviors to make sure that we are understood as well as, supported. So we have to model those behaviors in the correct way. And then lastly, and probably, one of the most important things is, self-improvement. So again, it goes back to, you have to keep showing off and you have to improve yourself. So as you can see from the graph, 365 days. So if we get 1% better every single day for 365 days, that means we're going to be 37.78 times better at the end of the year. But if we get 1% worse, that means we only left at 0.03 after 1 year. So keep showing up, little daily improvements, increments of building knowledge, building understanding, building skills, and getting better. Essentially, that would what essentially yields the most benefit to your career, to your progression, to you getting, and the next particularly stage in your, life. So keep showing up daily, even when you don't want it. These are the days that potentially has the most yield and benefit to you. So, as I said, look at the planning and how we can use the specific quadrants that can help you deliver to the strategic goals for your personal self, for your work, and keep getting better. Keep investing time in your personal, essentially in pursuit in your personal success. And if you ever need any advice, any help, you can always, guys, find me on LinkedIn. I'm always approachable. Drop me a message. Hopefully, I can help you and answer any of the questions you might have. But essentially, thank you for listening. As you can see, my channel is at MP Cybersecurity. You have my name, which is Marius Poskos. You can find me on LinkedIn. And please, reach out and let me know what should I discuss in episode 2. Any specific topics, any specific ideas that I can answer and help you guys. But for now, thank you for listening. This was episode 1 of Cybersecurity Diaries.